Okay, our fourth installment is about law in general. Finally, ethics and law, we're getting into some law. Okay, so the law is one means of regulation, a very specific type, hard regulation, black letter law. So let's get into it a bit more. What is the law? What are the important elements of the law? Okay, so the law is really things that affects you every day in life. Okay, so it can affect personal life, business, there's law involved in the media, you see law in popular culture all the time. And it's affected you in lots of ways over the last 24 hours. In fact, probably over the last hour, even me doing these videos, it's part of a contract that I have with the university. It's not explicit, but that I'll be involved and I'll help you with BSB111. So the law affects really and regulates all parts of our life. So what is the law, in fact? What distinguishes the law from other things? Well, the law needs to have three key attributes if it's going to be a law. Number one, it needs to be a set of rules. Number two, they need to be made by the state or by the government, and they need to be enforceable by prosecution or litigation. So think about it. There are lots of other places where we have rules, right? Can you think of a time that you have rules that isn't the law? So if you play a sport, it has rules. But often there's no sanction and it doesn't come from the state. So it's not the law that you actually must do that. So we can see that whether we play a game of poker, say, whether we play a game of sport, and lots of other areas in life where there are rules, but they're not made by the state and they're not subject to the enforcement and litigation, the prosecution and litigation that's involved. So they're the distinguishing features of the law. Very important to remember those three. In terms of business law, then they're the subset of laws that really look after business and business activities. Again, they've got to be made by the state and they've got to be enforceable by prosecution and litigation. Now, what do we want from the law? Oh, geez, we could have so many discussions about this. In fact, we could have a subject based upon the philosophy of law. But four key concepts for us to think about we have up here on this slide. The first one is certainty. Okay. So we want to be sure of what the law is. If the law is ambiguous, it's very difficult to understand what you should do. So therefore, as much as possible, the law is made to be certain, to be clear about what is and what is not legal. Now look, there are some kind of exceptions to that which we might go into through the course for areas where you want to discourage certain behaviours, but in general we want certainty from the law. While we want certainty, we also want flexibility. We want the law to be able to change when for instance, when it's wrong, when the law's been made and it just doesn't work properly, when society's views of something change, when technology changes, we might need to change the law. So can you think of something where the law's changed, where it's been more flexible? Very interesting. Have a think about that. We'll discuss it in class. A third thing we want is accessibility. By that, we mean citizens need to be able to find out what the law is. If it's inaccessible, you won't know that you're going to breach it. So while we can't know what all the law is, a key aspect of the law must be that we can work out what it is, that we can find out what the law is. It needs to be accessible. If not, we don't have good laws because we don't know what we should be following and what we shouldn't. And the final aspect of good law is that it's fair, that the majority of citizens see it as fair. If people don't see a law as fair, we're going to have a number of problems. So there's some of the key attributes that we really do need to remember. Okay, we need certainty, flexibility, accessibility, and fairness in the law. So why do we actually have the law? Look, there's lots of different reasons as to why we have the law, and if you look at this slide, you can see that it helps resolve disputes. It really does maintain social order, and in business terms, it maintains economic efficiency. It makes sure that we can work together socially as a community, and it helps those who are disadvantaged. It really does try and prevent the misuse of power and help the whole of society have a much fairer, more equal chance so that those in special positions can't abuse their power and the law, and try to protect those who have limited resources to protect themselves. While we have that in place, the law is always changing, and it changes for a number of reasons. I think that I've almost been through all of these in that flexibility slide, but really we can see they change because of political change, the need to fix problems, community values, pressure from lobby groups, changing technology.